Another 15-minute edition of One Soccer Today, reviewing every season for our 11 professional men's sides in Canada. Today, we arrive to BMO Field to discuss Toronto FC with Gareth Wheeler, Jordan Wilson, and Oliver Platt. 2024 will likely be remembered as the year of John Herdman. We don't know how much it will be remembered considering the results in the missed playoffs, but this was the one-year tenure for the coach who has since resigned from the club. There is a vacancy to be filled, but that's for perhaps a TFC look ahead in 2025. We're going to spend a lot of time reviewing what happened this year. So I guess it's a simple question to begin, Oliver Platt. How will this campaign be remembered in the minds of Reds supporters and the pundits that cover the team?
Well, I think, unfortunately, in the long-term memory, it will just be, one of a few seasons in TFC's history that was pretty unmemorable. I think while you were in it, there were a lot of memorable things that happened, but overall, when you look back on it, not much was accomplished. If there's an optimistic take, I think I think TFC fans will hope that it's looked at as the end of the disaster that has been the post Greg Vanney and Sim Bezpachenko period here, where Bill Manning took the reins and unfortunately has made a series of coaching and front office appointments that simply haven't worked out and have cost him his job. So with Keith Pelley in, you hope that this is that last season and that turning point where TFC starts to get back into relevance in MLS.
Jordan Wilson, the year and the legacy, which we've discussed a few different times on One Soccer Today. What will you remember the most from John Herdman's 2024 season with the Reds?
Honestly, my answer isn't going to be so flattering. I hate reflecting and it ends up being negative, but I don't think I'll ever get over for a long time John Herdman's TFC playing at BMO Stadium and talking about they didn't meet their objective. That will always stick out to me. When you slapped a League One semi-pro team and him basically being sour in pressers about the fact that you didn't, 7-0 and you didn't score 8?
Yeah, they wanted to win by 8. Yeah, they wanted to win by 8 goals. They won 8-1.
I mean, what are we doing at that point? When I think about 2024, specifically when I think about Can Champs, for years I'm going to think about John Herdman's comment and how that day had so much life with Simcoe County and how it was just a lot of good, positive moments. And that was just overshadowed by his comments at the end. For sure, I'm going to think about that forever.
Gareth Wheeler.
It was a roller coaster. The first thing that comes to mind is they started the season really well. They drew their first game at Cincinnati, back-to-back wins, and Signé was playing for him. You're like, oh, Herdman's done it again. And then that game against Saint Laurent at the beginning of May, they win 8-1 in that game. Herdman makes those comments, and then boom, all the way down. Didn't win a game in their next 10, including losing seven games in a row, including losing to Forge. All that on the trot. I mean, that for me, when you go 007, that's a fireable offense at that time. But he hung on with the club, and it was tumultuous all the way to the end of the year. Because then from that point forward, you had the drone scandal, pardon the pun, like hovering over this club like a dark cloud, and John Herdman, and it was just, there was really nothing to like at the end. They lacked a goal scorer. I even look at the team, like there were some players that had okay seasons, but no one had a really good season. So, and they got destroyed. 23 goals scored, 45 conceded in second halves of games. That was second worst second half team in MLS, and it's a large reason why they didn't make the playoffs. Just didn't have enough.
Yeah, a season where there wasn't enough of a lot of things, and at times a lot of excess in other categories of the club. And I mean, it's one where the table doesn't lie, but the interesting multiple acts of this season, it was like a Broadway tragedy in a lot of ways for this club. And I think, as Ollie alludes to, perhaps a chance to turn a new leaf. But there wasn't all bad. Like it's never all bad for a club in any season, unless you're to lose every single game and not score a goal and have off-field scandals. That's a lone excuse. But even then, you can generally find some kind of a silver-ish lining. What is your silver-ish lining from 2024, Ollie?
I think it's that Federico Bernardeschi, while he may not be still my first choice of designated player in MLS, was a lot better and played at, I think, a legitimately all-star level for most of the season. Like this player played wingback for most of the year, and he had 8 goals and 5 assists. Like, he was consistently the most influential player. He was consistently the player they turned to in moments when they needed a goal, needed a moment of magic. he ultimately got them through that Canadian Championship semi-final, which very nearly tripped them up against Forge. So I think as much as you would still seriously consider Bernadeschi's future coming out of this season and going into the next one, I don't think he actually performed badly, and it was certainly a massive transformation from the previous year under Bob Bradley.
Can I give you a counterpoint here? The bar was so low for Bernadeschi coming into the season. Working hard was like good enough. And I thought I'll give Herdman credit, like playing him wide right was a better position for him because it took away some of the areas where where he lacks, but it also kept Richie Larea, who I think could be one of the best players, out of his best position, which is on the right-hand side. So I'd rather have Richie playing there, quite honestly, than I would Federico. And because of this, multiple sources have said he reached some kicker, like in terms of goal contributions in his contract, which means his contract's being extended through 2028. Like, man, like I don't know if that's a good news story at all, Ollie, honestly, because they want to be able to clear out so they can bring in.
Yeah, we'll spend some time on that. Don't you worry, Wills. We're gonna stay in the optimistic realm. We're gonna stay in the optimistic realm though for like 3 more minutes, and then we can talk about the future of the Italians. Do you have a silver lining, or was it truly just a woeful season that didn't have much to embrace, Gareth?
Me? Well,
yeah.
Bill Manning leads the club. Like I like Bill, but I think that the writing was on the wall that the time was up. But the fact that Keith Pelly's taken over. And I think that he understands the magnitude of this job and things that need to be fixed both on and off the field. Like I kind of call him Tim Leiweke light. And when Tim Leiweke came to the club, he made big decisions that set them down the path to winning an MLS Cup. And it wasn't just spending money. It was like astute hires, coming up with your club identity. I think Keith Pelly will do that. And his post-match or his postseason comments about how everything's on the table and understanding the magnitude of the changes that need to be made. I think that he is going to be the right guy to oversee this project and get it back on track. I think that's the silver lining.
And Keith Pelly looked to be having the time of his life at the Grey Cup watching the Argonauts win. So I imagine he's probably addicted to winning now and would love to bring some of that over to the co-tenants at BMO Field. Jordan Wilson, what was the optimistic overtone of the 2024 season for you?
I'll keep it simple and be basic, is that 2023, they had 4 wins. This past season,
that did happen. That did happen.
4 wins. And now they have 11, or 2024, they had 11. For me, it's just the fact that you were able to get things done on the day more. And Wheels always pointed out, how they started first half well. So there's something there that's just like, it's going in the better direction. If you get 7 more wins than you did the previous year, you're like, okay, things are looking upward. But I think just the context of this club and how well they have done in the past overshadows maybe these little pushes that they've been making in the past year.
Okay, let's turn the page and have a bit of a look ahead to 2025. And Gareth brings up the point about a potential trigger for a 2028 extension. But of course, the Italians will be front of mind alongside the coaching search. $21.5 million they are owed next season. And I think you go on any Toronto FC posts when they were losing or not winning matches, and the supporters made their thoughts abundantly clear. They want to see them gone, one if not both. And maybe the more expensive one in particular would like to see a new leaf. Is there a way to get this project back on the rails, Jordan, without moving either of them? Or is it as simple, they must, or that might as well be a repeat of last season?
I mean, 2 months ago, I just thought there was a world where that's not happening. I know there's a few people, Ollie, I feel like you said as well, like it was time to go. Don't want to put words, but I'm pretty sure. And now I'm in your camp with you. Like, I just don't think that this could work. I don't care who you bring in, if they speak Italian, if they don't. We're going to have Insigne costing as much as he does and contributing as little as he does and try to compete. There's about to be 30 teams in the MLS next season with San Diego coming in. The top 10 of those teams have at least 1 or 2 big dogs that score goals. Insigne, and you look at his goal contribution, is nowhere close to what the top third of the league is at. You have to move him on. You have to bite the bullet. You have to say that this didn't work, or accept that you're just going to be a team that maybe scratches for playoffs, probably falls short, and has another season similar to this one.
Oliver Platt, do you agree?
Yeah, I don't think they can win with both of them on the roster, but I think Insigne is the one who needs to go. I do think you can have Federico Bernadeschi as part of a coherent team that is competitive in MLS based on his performances last season. Insigne, I just don't see it. I think he looks physically broken. I don't think he's contributing nearly enough, to Jordan's point, when he is healthy and on the fields. And like I've said before, I think you're in a situation where there's no getting out of this. If you're Toronto FC, you're going to pay up the duration of Lorenzo Insigne's contracts. It's just a question whether you pay him now to go away or you pay him over the next 2 years to continue to play it out. I think at this point, the first option is the better one.
Gareth.
There is a world where it could work. I'm just like everyone else, I'm going to be pessimistic because there's very little evidence that Insigne will be the difference maker. One thing they can do right now, and I've no doubt they will do it, they're going to bring in a number 9. Like, Prince Owusu was never going to be the solution. I like DeAndre Kerr, but he's probably better as a second striker than someone to lead the line. So they're going to need like a top number 9. And that's where they're going to probably spend what little wiggle room they have. I just look at the players that are bringing back. Like, there's a lot of the same players from last year are going to be back. Like, there's very little turnover, at least in terms of the player that they're contractually keeping. Of course, they can find ways, be creative, maybe have to, pay pennies on the dollar in order to get players out so they can get new players in. But it all depends on who the next manager is. If they make the right hire. You saw Herdman. There was incremental gains from bottoming out the season before. Let's see what this new manager is all about. Add a number 9. There is a world in a league like this with so many teams that make the playoffs that they can make a little bit more of a jump.
Well, Gareth sort of alludes to the last thing we want to get to today. And Italians aside, they can be in their own very expensive, maybe platinum or gold laden column. But otherwise, what's the most pressing need for this team? Let's go to you, Jordan Wilson.
Well, Will said it, like, without a doubt. But then I think also too is just their player pool, like who you're bringing in as first team. Like, there was a time where like TFC, they were the young players that were coming in could contribute and do something. Like, who are those players now? I mean, that's what I say. But the number 9 has to be the biggest one, without a shot of doubt, because there's so many times you had Herdman looking up at the press box when Prince Owusu, I don't know how he missed certain chances, but there were those that all happened in 2024, where everything was pointing to they can't finish off teams, they can't go and score, and it's the most coveted thing in football, right? Find a goal scorer, but TFC definitely lacks in that area by a mile.
A number 9 and a center back that can move the ball out of the back, and like probably someone that's a little bit more athletic as well. That has to be right near the top of the shopping list.
Oliver Platts, what would you put number 1 on your list if you were writing a footballing list to Santa?
Striker for sure. But like, I think broadly speaking, like, I don't hate the list of players that TFC are bringing back. I don't think it's necessarily a terrible list. I think it's the top end quality that's the problem for them. So the key positions in the team, striker is the biggest one, centre back's another one, central midfield as well. Like, that to me is the issue more than it is what the roster looks like in terms of the depth of the roster. Jason Hernandez has said that there is going to be a lot more flexibility for this team this offseason than there was last offseason. There's a lot of things, I think, coming off the books that, aren't necessarily players that are even on the roster anymore, but are leftovers from previous regimes. So we'll see how much flexibility that is and what they can do. But I don't think they're in a terrible position going into 2025, the way it's built outside of the Insigne problem.
Just the problem is, if you're trying to move some of these players, it's the dollars, the contracts that they have. And not a lot of them are on club friendly terms where they're movable assets. I think that might be the bigger issue. So I don't know that you might have to give up something that you like in order to get, give yourself more flexibility to do something else.
Yeah, there's a couple of those, but I don't know that there's that many left now. Like, Petretta and Rosted haven't really worked out, decent money, but other than that, I don't think it's as bad as it has been.
Jordan Wilson, we have about 50 seconds left in the show, and I think Toronto FC fans could use a pep talk. So why are you optimistic heading into 2025?
Because a new manager's coming in. Keith Pelly. These are all signs in the right direction. If you're going into this season finishing the way that it did, and look, there's not slate on John Herdman, but there's just a lot of negative press and a negativity baggage headed their way. Baggage is a great word, Wheels. So I think that when you get a clean slate to start a season, that's something to be optimistic about.
The reset button, I don't think it's any secret. Just people weren't happy behind the scenes at the end of the season, the way that things were going, the way that things were run. So now hit the reset button. Reason for optimism always comes with that.
Smash that reset button, Toronto FC fans, and hope that the 2025 season brings a few more smiles like we hope maybe this program did today. Thanks for watching.